considered the year one in Love of Law, 1989, which is from our first parliament in Lamont Park, which was in 1989, which was our first public parliament, because our first parliament actually was in, I want to say, my senior year in high school at my grandmother's house in 1988. And if I recall correctly in that history, it was me, my king. Demeek wasn't there because I believe Demeek was away at college.
Okay.
But I would have to double check with him. This might be prior to him leaving. Because I know, no, you know what? I think Demeek was at this first parliament at my grandmother's house, because he wasn't at the first parliament in Lamert Park because he was away at college.
Okay.
So the first parliament was at my grandmother's house, which was me, my king, Demeek, Sudan Divine, Just, and I believe that was it. I would have to get with my king. I can't recall any other brothers. Oh, King Born probably was there as well. But I'd have to double check. But if I recall, those are the core people that was at the parliament at my grandmother's house. But we have the year one in 1989 in Lamert Park. That's when we first started going over there. Then, as far as the history is concerned, there's two sets of threes. You have the first one, which is the 8. That's not including all the brothers that we came up with during that time. Just the core 8, which was the brothers that came together to create that first parliament. Now, my first 3 that I came with, my first core 3, my first, and it's funny, is two sets of black, brown, and yellow. So mine was Demeek, myself, and my king. That was my 3 that came up. And I got knowledge in October of '87. When I returned back in LA, in the same month, I got knowledge and moved back to LA within the same month. Well, at least I got the mathematics. When I came back, all I had was mathematics. All I had was mathematics. When I met Demeek, and it's funny I met Demeek, and I'm gonna come up with the raw history too and shit. I had, brother being the 5% of the best way I know how, man, so I have a lot of reading materials and stuff. Brothers is reading, the little few black books that they got in the library and stuff. So I'm in class, I think it might have been social studies or something like this. And because when I came back from New York, I was living in Simi Valley. And that's where my mom was at. So during that time, when we were staying over there, I got all my reading materials and stuff, getting my pro-black on in class. And I was very blatant. I wanted to let, especially being out there in Simi Valley, I wanted everybody to know that I was identifying with my blackness. So every time I went to class, I put out every book I was reading every time and shit like that. Like, I wanted somebody to go by and question what I was dealing with and shit. When you get this knowledge, I know for me it was the confrontation of it, like, fool, I know something. Like, fool, I know something. That's how I was ordered this shit. So the TA in my class, which was the teacher assistant, went by and was like, what you into or whatever, and I go on and tell her I'm a 5%er, and she goes over to tell me that her boyfriend is a 5%.
Wow.
So I doubt it because the girl's white. But this is the history, though. You know what I'm saying? Right. Let's keep it 100 and shit. But that's my brother. It's nothing. He was still, come on, man. Brothers is learning. Brothers is building. We young men with this knowledge. So I'm not saying it about that. I love the biggest shit. And the funny thing about it is when you tell the history of Love of Law, if you speak to people who was around the first born, if they ask you who taught Born of Law, a lot of them would say to me. Because when I came back, like I said, all I had was mathematics.
Right.
The only person that had other lessons was Demeek. I got my alphabet 1 to 10, and I believe I'm 1 to 36 from Demeek. If I recall correctly, I know I got the 1 to 10 from when I got my alphabet from him and stuff, but my early lessons come from him. So a lot of people that come from our history and our era, which is in the 80s, because we say the year 1 is in 89, but in order to be a firstborn, you had to have knowledge prior to 89 from having the first parliament. And even then, you wasn't considered the firstborn. You have other people who, like I said, was around, and it's not saying that they was necessarily intricate pieces, but they was there living the history with us. So you had our first 3, and that was me, Demeek, my king. I was at the time I was trying to teach a brother. His name was, you know what I'm saying. So most of my history and experience come from being a Muslim. Like I said, my father was a Muslim. Even prior to that, my history. My mom had remarried after leaving my father. Had married my stepfather. He was in Nation Temple number 7.
Wow.
Since I was 2 years old. You know what I'm saying? They was in number 7, and they was members of the Nation of Islam prior to Elijah passing.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying? In Temple number 7. At the time, Farrakhan was the head minister at Temple number 7 when my parents were together and had me. I used to go to a Nation of Islam school. My step-pops used to work at the Steak and Take across the street from the Temple in number 7. That's actually where my mom and my step-pops met. You know what I'm saying? So I had long been involved with the nature. That's all of what I had knew. So I began to incorporate this whole thing of me being God with the continuing practicing the rituals that I had learned from the Nation of Islam, because to me it was somehow intertwined. You know, after that time is when I had met Demeek, and like I told you with Demeek, I was in school at the time, and I had met, prior to me moving to New York to live with my father, I had met Demeek when he first moved from Long Island. And he tried to explain to me what the 5% was, but at the time I didn't know. He just heard me screaming I was from New York, because I was born in New York and raised in California. So he assumed that I knew what the 5% was. I didn't know. So I born Infinite Universal Mathematics. That was my name when I went to a law school in Mecca. And they used to always kill me because I'd meet me, and they'd be like, "Oh, peace, you know, everybody such and such a law." And I'd be like, "Yo, peace, my name I born Infinite Universal Mathematics." And motherfuckers was like, "Yo, out of all that shit, what you want me to call you?" You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man, you know. And it's so funny. The reason why I started claiming the Born was because El Nahim, that's what he called me.
Okay.
He called me Born. You know what I'm saying? So what I started doing was chopping all the words off of it and shit. So I went from Born Infinite Universal Mathematics to law, to I born Infinite Universal Mathematics to law, to I born Universal Mathematics, to Born Universal, to Born Allah. And the way that I ended up coming down to the final, just Born Allah, like that's it, was because, like I said, when I met Beloved is the one that took me to meet Firstborn Allah B, which is the Firstborn Allah. So he took me to meet him, man, when I was still like 19, I think I was like 19, 20 or something like that. And it was just so profound, his history to me, man, because I was bugging out. It was me, Beloved, Bilal, and my partner in the group at the time, which is another Firstborn, King Born. We all went to go see Allah B. And, you know, I just learned so much from him, and I began to correspond with him, you know, via letter. I used to take his calls and everything, Allah B, and really being my brother, even prior to him being free in the free world and stuff. So, and I started getting into his history, because I always explain to people I have not only the way I see my name has a historical value. And, you know, I saw the similarities in what he did and what I did, because I got knowledge in Pilon. He was the firstborn of Pilon. You know, Allah B is physical is on 4 days before mine.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? He's the firstborn of Pilon, I'm the firstborn of Love Allah. So I saw a lot of historical similarities in that. So that's why I ended up embracing Born Allah.
Okay.
You know, because I just saw the similarities, and I respect where he came from. I respect what he did, and I couldn't have got the knowledge because, like I said, I got knowledge of Pilon. That's the first time I ever heard anything about the black man being God, or even about what a 5% is.
Right.
You know, so if it wasn't for what he did, it just amazed me how it came full circle. That hey, I went to this high school, lived not too far from his stomping grounds, you know what I'm saying, and got the knowledge and went all the way to Love Allah. You know what I'm saying? And ended up building and trying to build a nation out there. So I just wanted to pay homage to that history that he lived, got to see, you know, what he did in the nation. So I ended up embracing it. So like I said, it was an easy transition at the time, because, you know, El Nahim, that's all he ever called me was Born. You know what I'm saying? So that's how that ended up going. And after getting my getting 120 out of the law school, I ended up coming back, man. The first person I gave the copy of the 120 to actually came to my house. Like, I think I landed in the daytime. He was in my house by the evening coming to get a copy of it. Was the God Justice, or Just Life, which I know, which is another one of the first one, the Black Sea. And it's actually Just who is the first one to knowledge 120 out of all of this. Because once we got it, everybody was racing to try to figure out who was going to knowledge it first. You know what I'm saying? So Just was the first one to put it on the cap. I was always good at, I began searching on how to interpret the lessons. So a lot of my first early history was me going to Mecca. And that's where I got where all the knowledge and wisdom started at. I got my history, and I got the way, you know what I'm saying, the tradition, the values, I got all that from there. And I really learned how to make it walk and talk by going into Medina. And building with my brothers in Medina, man, they really gave me a lot of understanding of how to interpret the lessons. So out of the first three, you had my three, like I said, it was me, Demeek, and my king. And my king was the ones who was close and had new prior the other set of brothers, which was Sudan, Just, and Divine. So that's where you get the 6 of the 8 firstborn of Allah. My king was always close with that circle. Him and Just, and you would have to get him to really speak on that relationship and how they met each other, because I don't really know, because they all had prior relationships prior to me. I don't want to speak on that, but he was the one that brought me around and told me that, hey, there's other 5%ers out there. So like I said, I think Sudan's name at the time, I think, was Magnetic 7. Just was always Justice. He was always Justice, and Divine, his name was Love Born Divine, I believe. So, and I want to give everybody an opportunity to speak on their history, but I want to speak on how I know him as far as the connection with them. Sudan to me was always kind of like the best knower, because I know he had a lot of lessons because of, I believe it was a stepfather that was in the nation, so I know he had a lot of lessons and stuff like that. And I can't really speak on when they got 120, and as far as the set of 120 that I had grown back from, because I'm pretty sure I know whatever I gave just shared amongst them. So I will let them brothers speak on their history. But I actually met Sudan, Divine, and Just. I used to go during that time when apartheid was going on. So I used to go to a lot of rallies against apartheid and stuff like that. I was very into the pro-black movement, and consciousness. That's what everybody was on. Public Enemy, the African Medallion. So I used to go to a lot of those type of functions. And I went to one over there, Los Angeles Rodeo, some type of political meeting at Los Angeles Rodeo at the Numero Unos over there. And I had Sudan, Just, and all of them meet me. And we got together and we built, and keep in mind, during this time, I was very opinionated, especially in LA, about who were 5%ers and who wasn't. You know what I'm saying? As far as them not, especially with, I thought I was the best knower. And even this meeting that I had with them, I still hadn't even been to New York, and I still consider myself an authority. I hadn't even been, like, you know how we be sweating these asshole 5%ers that don't know their lessons, don't know their asshole from their elbow, as far as the knowledge concerned. Believe you me, I was one of those dudes from 87 to go into a law school back in 89, 90 and shit, you know what I'm saying? But even during that period of time, I thought I was an authority. I thought I was the man, I was the guy in the know. So I had an opinion. I never really had an opinion on Just, because it was funny, Just did the knowledge. He didn't really speak much. A lot of the conversation took place between me and Sudan, which, like I said, at the time appeared to be the best knower, or was the most willing to articulate what he knew at the time. So I had an opinion about how they was dealing with it, you know what I'm saying? So, but they my brothers nonetheless, you know what I'm saying? But I had an opinion at the time. And I'm trying to figure out what actually brought us together, but I know it was Just relationship with us, because Just began to build with us a lot more. So from that link is where Just got Divine and all them, and I would love for him to come around, but I think a lot of the confrontation of us going through the lessons and who's right and who's wrong took place at that first parliament at my grandmother's house. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's coming to the table. It was the first time collectively all of us came together. You know, but you can't front on the people that was around during that time prior to, I guess you could say, or the people that ran what is considered the firstborn of Love Allah. Like I said, I was teaching, or call myself teaching Rashid, which was my man Shannon at the time. Shannon, his name was Rashid, and I was calling myself teaching him during the time that I met my king. The way I met my king was that I used to go to Hamilton, and during summer school, everybody used to come to Hamilton summer school, so I used to try to get at my king's cousin, my sister, man, my sister. I used to try to get at her. And, through the course of my drag, because you got to keep in mind, just like any new 5%, part of my back was that I'm a 5%. That was part of my back. So through that conversation, her thing was like, oh, my cousin's a 5%. So she introduced me to my king. And my king just came out of a real bad car accident, so he was on the cane and everything. But I met my king, and he started rolling with us. The person that came to me and my king was my first baby mom's Quintero.